hello, welcome, how every person interact, engage, or communicate with another person, obviously, when they get some medium, some connection, or some relationship. All planets interact and influence each other. The nature of their relationship determines their interactions. Astrologically, there are 7 types of relationships. These relationships can shift between negative and positive. We will discuss these 7 types of relationships. There exist 7 kinds of relationships. These relationships can be negative or positive, and they can shift between negative and positive. Today, we will discuss the 7 types of planetary relationships, how interactions and other factors alter them. Today's topic may seem basic, but even advanced astrology students will learn something new. Depending on 6 factors, today we will discuss what these 7 different kinds of relationships are that planets form with each other, how their interactions change, and what factors can alter these relationships and change their dynamic. You might find today's topic basic, but trust me, even for advanced students of astrology, you have something new to learn today. When planets impact or interact with each other, they create a dynamic web where their styles of communication change. Today's topic might seem basic, but even advanced students can learn something new. When planets interact, they form a dynamic web altering communication styles. We will discuss how planets interact. Now, when they are mutually impacting or interacting with each other, influencing each other, a dynamic web is created where their style of communication changes. Today, as we discuss this topic, we will interact about how planets interact with each other based on their 7 kinds of relationships with each other. These can either be constructive or detrimental due to 6 factors. However, these relationships themselves can also be constructive or detrimental. So the first one is conjunction, the most commonly known relationship. A conjunction occurs when two or more planets are placed in the same house or sign, and degree-wise, they deeply impact each other. That's what we call a conjunction. A conjunction can be tight or loose. If tight, the energy exchange is deep-rooted, with planets sharing emotions and qualities. The outcome, good or bad, depends on their natural significations, relationship, placement, degree proximity, and impact. It is such an environment where they can share their emotions and qualities with each other. In this give and take, who benefits, who suffers, who is causing trouble, all of this depends on their natural significations, their relationship and placement, and their impact. It also depends on their house and sign and their strength. All these factors determine whether the conjunction is good or bad. 1. Are they impacting the other or not? What is their house and zodiac placement? Who is happy? Who is sad? Who is strong? Who is weak? It depends on all these things, whether the conjunction is good or bad. Good or bad. It's a matter of connection at a very deep level, where the give and take or energy exchange is completely felt. The second mutual aspect through planners is what we call as Saptak relationship. In this, I will not take 410 and 5-9 placement because 410 will come for Saturn Mars or Jupiter will come for Rahul. When I mention the 5-9 placement, not all planets will be covered. But keep in mind that this is also a type of relationship, and it's not just for Mars and Jupiter or Saturn. It's applicable to all planets for now. We are talking about mutual aspects, specifically discussing the semi-septile relationship. We mentioned conjunctions are good or bad, but energy exchange is heavy. This is called opposition, mostly considered negative, where competition for dominance and proving oneself exists. If planets are friendly, it could lead to healthy competition or interaction. When they stand at windows and talk, looking at each other, a dialogue happens, but compatibility doesn't turn into opposition. Proving yourself is problematic when both planets are strong and in opposition. If the planets are friendly, it could lead to a healthy competition or interaction between the two planets. When they stand at their windows and talk to each other, looking at one another, there's a dialogue happening between them, but the compatibility doesn't turn into opposition, proving. Yourself becomes problematic when both planets are strong and they are in opposition. If both planets are debilitated, they come into position and are also friends, then we won't call it bad. In fact, they try to support or help each other in this context. So the first relationship we discussed is conjunction. The second is the semiseptile relationship and the relationship of opposition, which we generally consider negative. Then comes the concept of sign change. What is sign change? Sign change. It means that when two planets sit in each other's signs, for example, if Mercury is placed in Jupiter's sign Sagittarius and Jupiter is placed in Mercury's sign, we call this a sign change, and it also creates a direct connection. This is a powerful connection that is mostly considered beneficial, where both planets come to a compromising stage. What does compromising stage mean? It means you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. You hurt me, I'll hurt you. You think good for me, I'll think good for you. Because your house is near mine and my house is near yours. So we don't have much to think about. But there are many other factors that depend on how well this relationship through the exchange of signs will go. If their functional lordships are good, one is a File, and one is a Raphith lord, and one is a Seven lord, that would be good. If one of them has a bad lordship, then there will be a bit of blemish on both. After one change, the strength and dignity are increasing, or they are well placed in themselves where they are positioned, and their natural relationships are good. The more good things we get to hear, the more qualitative and tedious the exchange will become, and the lesser will be the difficulty. If there is animosity between them, or if they are encountering difficult planets after the exchange, then we can't expect much from the exchange. Then, the fourth kind of exchange is sign aspect. I'm not talking about German astrology at all. These are all concepts from Parashara, and what I will tell you next is also taken from another branch. This is not a concept. It's simply that in our Parashara astrology, all kinds of relationships are considered. So, when there is a sign aspect, how do the planets affect each other? For example, if Saturn is placed in the sign of Scorpio and Mars is placed in the sign of Leo, so Saturn has influenced Mars because Saturn sat in Mars' sign. Now, Mars is giving an aspect to Saturn, a fourth aspect from the sign of Leo. Okay. In this example, so Saturn and Mars are not just influencing each other through sign aspect, but they are affecting each other. Because if Mars is looking at Saturn, then Saturn's test will come over Mars in the 10th house. It should be a similar example. For example, if Venus is placed in Aries, which is Mars' sign, and Mars is in Capricorn, sitting and looking at Venus. So what's happening? Venus is influencing Mars because Venus is placed in Mars' sign. And Mars is influencing Venus because it is looking at Venus. This is called the sign aspect relationship. In this, the planet that is aspecting has more control. But yes, because in the examples I gave you, Mars is looking at Venus. So Mars will have control over Venus from above, saying, "You are sitting in my house. I see that you are sitting in my house." The house can also say this in return. "Yes, you are watching me, but I am the one sitting in your house." So it all depends on who is strong, who is weak, who is looking while being weak, who is looking strong, all that. But generally, The upper control is held by the planet that is aspecting the planet, sitting in its own house. Our fifth kind of relationship is the relationship of the center. The relationship of the center also exists in the seventh. Some noted Mars Saturn. Our second center relationship is the relationship of the fourth and tenth. The relationship of the fourth and tenth is actually referred to as the Mars Saturn relationship, and in the Panch Tattva methodology, we consider it as friends. Even if we remove the rules of Panch Maitri, it is said in this relationship, you should understand this like there is a commander and 11 employees, and someone has given a command while someone has received it. There is an interaction happening between the two. So here, the instructions are mostly supportive. They work like clicks and try to complement and uplift each other. We appreciate each other's efforts. I had mentioned that all these relationships can be negative or positive in themselves, but there are other factors as well that can be constructive or destructive, and we will talk about that too. Then our sixth kind of relationship is the trine relationship. Whenever planets are sitting in a trine, note that they are placed in a similar element. So it is considered like a conjunction. The impact of a conjunction is completely, we would say, 100%. The trine impact, on the other hand, we will bring down a bit, where the impact remains around 60 to 70%, but it still influences. Here, this impact is usually referred to as good, where planets influence each other's nature, condition, and feelings. Then comes the seventh kind of relationship, the front and back relationship. I'm not calling this a broken placement relationship. I'm referring to it as the relationship of adjacent houses. Any planet can be placed anywhere. For example, let's say Aries is rising, Venus is placed in the ascendant, the Sun is placed in the 12th house, and Mercury is placed in the second house. So when I talk about Venus's back, I mean who is behind it. It's the Sun. So Venus is carrying the influence of the Sun with it as it moves forward, and it is meeting Mercury ahead, which will represent Venus's future. Now, the planets that sit behind you, support you, or take a back step, and these rules are not just seen in women or in any other astrology, but also in various astrological combinations in the foreign system. There are many astrological combinations, meaning yogas, that are formed based on how planets interact with each other. Through these placements, if Venus is behind the Sun and the Sun's dignity is good, there will be both good and bad aspects to it. If the incoming planet is your friend, then it will welcome you and you will look forward to it. So these are 7 different kinds of relationships that planets share with each other, leading towards a good future. Now, whether it's healthy or trouble, it depends. The planet's own, what is the nature like? It has its own gripping nature, destructive nature, fighting nature. Of course, who can change it so that you benefit from it yourself? Mars is Mars, and it considers a friend. Then, how do you relate to each other on a natural and temporary basis? I agree. Mars is Mars, but if he considers someone a friend, then he does that. Now, there are functional relationships. If your functional relationship isn't good, then you need to work on that too. Then you might start bothering each other. Then comes the house and sign placement of the planet itself. The dignity on itself also determines whether a relationship is good or bad. What is your degree? Are you actually making an impact or not? Are you moving away or getting closer? That also impacts the relationship. Then there's the future and past positioning. The past passes by. Instead of focusing too much on that, we should pay more attention to the planets coming in the future. What do we need to remember? From all these points, we need to remember that it's a complete give and take. Where partnership comes into play, there are both good and bad partnerships. In this case, we won't just talk about the conjunction at all. At this level, we won't say whether it's good or bad. It completely depends on the points. Mutual aspect, it means what happens in the relationship of zodiac opposition. In that, we usually say that it's not good. Mutual aspect talks about proving or telling each other or creating tension. But if you are friends, it can be a healthy competition too. And sometimes healthy competition uplifts you. Zodiac changes are good. Here, the planets end up in a compromising situation where nothing can be done. The zodiac odd aspect has more influence from the 11th side. The central relationship is one where there is mutual support or cooperation. It's the central relationship that forms, especially for 10. People consider this negative. It is said that the central relationship and the relationship of opposition, this is bad. Opposition, I told you that yes, it is competitive, and that is the central relationship, especially this relationship of 410. We do not consider this to be good in the question, but when we are reading the chart otherwise, we won't directly say that the relationship of 4 is negative. Right. Keep this in mind. This is a type of command giving and command receiving relationship. Then the trine relationship is good. In this, you are impacting each other's nature and the way each other works. Just like consumption, there's a slightly lower label and the front back driving force of yours and what you are going to receive in the future. Now, let's put this on the chart. Okay, now there is no zodiac change or zodiac aspect happening in this. In our 7, such 2 points of relationship have gone. Now let's talk about the other relationship. First of all, in the conjunction, there is a Sun, Mercury, Venus type of conjunction. What is the good thing happen in this? There is a rule for conjunctions that the planet in the middle brings the others closer together. For example, Mercury maintains friendships with both Venus and the Sun. The relationship of the same is at least friendly from Mercury's side, and Mercury's lordship is also good. It is the ascendant lord. Now, the relationship between the Sun and Venus is not good. They are enemies, and the Sun's rulership is also not good. Mercury filters messages between Sun and Venus, causing 11 positive effects. So the communication from Venus that Mercury will pass on to the Sun, or the Sun's communication that Mercury will pass on to Venus, will go through a filter, resulting in 11 positive impact. If the planet sitting in between has enmity with the other planet, then the information it passes on is usually negative. If the planet between has enmity towards the other planet, then the information it passes on is negative. This is a very important role of conjunctions. So the one who turns on the information pass usefully turns on the negative information pass. Conjunctions link ideas, fostering dialogue. So, in such conjunctions where friends and natural benefits and functional benefits come into play, it transforms into a healthy conversation. Then we talk about our relationships in opposition. Now, the root is in the opposition of the Sun, Mercury, and Venus. We mentioned that opposition always involves a competitive relationship. Sun and Moon interact healthily, avoiding surprises. So their interaction and communication will be like a healthy competition in which the suns won't bring that much flea bat factor. The moon is looking at me. It feels like my friend is watching me. In fact, Mercury and Venus, both of which have a connection with the moon, will definitely be agitated and will take that competition seriously. When they see that the moon is watching us and the moon is in association or opposition with Venus, if you are not getting any beneficial impact in your trine and you are weak yourself, it can also indicate a loss of money because Venus is wealth and the moon represents loss. Those with a Moon Venus link can face financial losses, avoid risky money activities. Trine involves Mars, Rahu, and Saturn. They are advised not to engage in any risky activities related to money matters. Now, when we talk about trine associations, the relationship that forms in the trine involves Mars, Rahu, and Saturn. We say that it mostly remains positive. Now, what I need to say is it's a trine association, and I need to mention what we talked about. They influence each other's nature and behavior. Mars is casting its gaze on the fifth house. Now, since they have also come into the trine of Saturn. So, when I emphasize the fifth point and when I focus on the thousandth matter, it's because Mars is in the trine of Saturn. Now, Mars will play a very important role in that. Mars is transferring its complete energy to Rahu and Saturn because Rahu will manipulate that energy further. So, the energy will be transformed to Saturn. Mars transferred energy to Rahu in degrees. Wise Rahu transferred the energy to Satan. The energy transfer that is reaching. Saturn is aggressive and a bit volatile. There could also be a factor of deception involved. So there should not be any malefic planets in between when you are interacting, because this is not a direct communication. One's in a difficult situation in between. This also applies in conjunctions. This also applies in the trine where degrees are given importance. Now let's talk about the back of the planet, the future of the planet. Now, when I say that Saturn is behind the moon, just like Rahu is behind Jupiter and Mars is behind the sun, which planet is ahead? For instance, the moon is ahead of Saturn and Mars is ahead of the sun. Let's take an example where Saturn is behind the moon. The moon is in its directional strength and is in a friendly sign, but the moon has just left its debilitation sign. That is also a kind of Saturn weakness. You're just moving forward after leaving your debilitation. Saturn's behind you. So the backing of your mind, your moon, or your thoughts has reality check. Harsh planets, which will make you strong. When there is a planet behind you that shows harshness, I am talking about the natural significations of the moon. So this point I am making regarding the mother, this point regarding the mother's history or the lordship of this planet has the impact of Saturn. I will say this. When we talk about the future, I am saying that Mars is ahead of the Sun, and the Sun and Mars are naturally friends. So if the Sun is meeting Mars, it can be said that the future of your wealth, the future of your soul, your father is represented by Mars, but while meeting Mars, you are encountering the debilitated Mars, and that also affects it. If we turn this entire situation negative, then the weakness of Mars, the association of Mars's debilitation will start to weaken. Now let's talk about the 4-10 relationship. In the 4-10 relationship, you can see that Rahu and Ketu are forming a relationship with the moon, Venus, Mercury, and the sun. The 4-10 relationship is good. In work, one directs, another follows, like Mars. Rahu and Ketu at 90 degrees choke energy. When you work, one person is telling you to work and you are doing the work, because this relationship is like Marston. And there are certain rules which overrule, we should not forget that also We talked about how when Rahu and Ketu impact any planet at a 90-degree angle, they choke with midpoint energy. Rahu and Ketu are at degrees of Venus and Mercury where they are choking them. So this 410 relationship will not be good, and it is being formed with Rahu and Ketu, formed by Rahu and Ketu. Rahu and Ketu are at Venus and Mercury's degrees. This 410 relationship is not good, formed by Rahu and Ketu. So this 410 relationship will not be good at all, and it is being formed with Rahu and Ketu. Who is forming it? It is Rahu and Ketu. We cannot talk to them more than the relationship of meet 410. Let's assume that this fourth relationship is made between Moon and Jupiter. Now we can definitely say that the commands being passed by Jupiter will be received well by the Moon. In my earlier days of learning astrology, when I learned about conjunctions, zodiac changes, and mutual aspects, I thought it was very simple. These are the kinds of relationships that exist. But later, when I would see people analyzing, I noticed that this was being referred to as a trine relationship, a central relationship. What happens in these cases? What do you mean to say? It literally gives you that kind of feeling. What you saying? Why creating confusion? But no one clearly talks about these relationships and doesn't explain what this kind of placement or this kind of connection is communicating with each other and what their intention is in communicating. I hope this web created by the planets, this dynamic web of interaction, makes sense to you. I hope you understood. Thank you so much.